Hello? Okay, I want to show you how a 124 scale GM34 gets born. This is basically it, apart from a hell of a lot of stuff that needs to be manufactured, like pipes and stanchions and handrails and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so this is the basics. There's a little box full of laser cut things, which will be slightly bigger tomorrow. Okay, so good. That is a Salem valve. All right, there's a smaller one than that too that sits at the front of it. Okay, so let me run you through this. We print the whole thing, except, check here, for the side frames. These are USA Trains side frames. What's lovely about them is they've got pickups on the axles. So you take this, you got pickups to the wheels, and then this is their motor block. Lovely piece of engineering this, and then it picks up through the shoes as well. Now, if you watched some of the other videos, you will know that these things do not play around when it comes to shear pulling. No traction tires on it. They removed it a couple of years ago because they had this thing, the power in this thing is actually of such a nature that it used to crack the cordon shafts inside, or it cracked the gear on the axle. They magnificently strong. So this is your basic block, and then obviously your side frame just goes on there like that. You also see it pivots in the front, eh? So, and there's your side frame, and there's your block. Nifty, eh? And it pivots in the front. If you want to, I remove this and I chuck it away, but it pivots in the front, and it's got drive here, so it's all-wheel drive, this thing. Really, really lovely little block. Okay, and then, all right, so you built up, there's a little attachment that goes on here that we laser cut, to get it to the 34 shape. These get removed. We print them in resin. It's a bigger cylinder, and it gets one in the middle as well. There's a couple of modifications on this that I do. That is stuff that we need to print in resin to make it look like the real one. All right, so that's that. Now, the mounting for it, this actually, if you look there, there's a guide point there. So it sits like that. It goes in there. All right, so it sits like that over the motor block. And this basically holds the side frames to the motor block. Pretty nifty. Very, very nifty. And, all right, so you got two of those, two motor blocks. Do this. Then the chassis. We suckled. We've done MDF chassis. But what works the best for me still is the PETG printed chassis. So when you get it, obviously off the machine, I say, erectile dysfunction, hy's popperig. And light, obviously. So what you need to do is, to get weight in this thing, I built this chassis side rails, the side frame, out of 10mm square bar that I cut to size and then attach to the chassis, and then I do the crossbars. I build a ladder there before the diesel tank, after the diesel tank, and at the back, and to that your couplers attached and all that stuff. Okay, that's later. I will update as I go along with this thing and show you. We'll do it like the smoker in a couple of parts. All right, so then you have that, and you won't believe it, but this, from the first ones that I built to where I am now, this actually added about 1.4 kgs in total onto the weight of the train. All right, because they weighed about 6.5, well, there it is, 6.3 kgs. All right, now the fuel tank, it comes in parts, because obviously as you put it on here, and attach it to the chassis. It needs to be spaced up there. There's a couple of things that need to happen here still. It needs to be laser cut before we can put the tank on. On this is the bottom of it, obviously like that. You have to do, I've got Green Stuff World profiles that I do all these arms that interlock with the bogies that simulate that. The speaker, this is the magic. This is a Visathon FRS8. This is the big boss. This is probably the best speaker that you can put into any model train. It's got bass, it's got treble, it's got everything. It's just perfect. Oh, there are some tricks on how to get it to pump a little bit. I'm not going to tell you. Anyway, so then you bolt your tank to, onto the chassis. But because this is printed, if you force this thing in any way, it will go out of shape. So every one of these get a piece of square bar in it as well, on the sides. Adds extra weight, makes it nice and stiff, and this is very important weight. You got the speaker in here, you got the two pieces of square bar, because between the motor blocks, you need weight there. It's just better for traction, and in the nose and at the back of the axle. So you load it up in the middle of the two motor blocks, and you load it slightly ahead of that, of the front axle. You put some weight there. So I load it in the nose, and I load it in the arse, and boomy boom. It pulls anything you put behind it. Right, now the body. Now that is the hardest job, because it gets here in 1 billion pieces. Obviously your 3D print beds only about like this. We got a big one now that can print that thing all in one, the back, but you still got to print this separate. Because a 3D printer cannot print in the air. So to do this like that, we print it like that. And if you do it like that, all on its own, it gets all fuzzy inside there and nasty and ugly. So we print this piece, you print that piece, we print the toolbox separate, and then you glue it together, and that is it's a hell of a job to do it neatly. Anyway, let's carry on. Okay, so when your cab's done, it should look like that. This is now filled in everywhere. It's been sanded. It takes you 5 days, 8 hours a day on a body to get it like this. This one's going to be orange, spoornet orange, so it will ultimately look like this. That's going to be your sort of finish that you get. This one is also done for guys that want to go and do RC on theirs. You can put a battery pack in here and just with little magnets. Fast. Okay, cool. And then obviously you are now, this is the body, show them the body here. So that's one piece. That's one piece. This is a 3-day print. That's one piece and that's one piece. Now you will see all these little bolt heads there. We now print separate in resin to make them pop. You see, so then they're nice and crisp. Okay, the other thing that happened was, look at me. We always used to do the nose in filament. The filament printed, there's a filament printed nose. And you get the lines, you can do nothing about that. You can sand this very, very smooth, but it takes a hell of a lot of time. Where the biggest problem be there around the handles, you will easily take off rivets here where the sander is not ideal. So for about 3 times the price of that, for Mani, because he's a special dude, I printed a resin one. So this is resin, you see, and look at that finish. Beautifully crisp. I did not sand this, I didn't touch it. It comes like this off the machine. And you see it's nice and crisp there. All the vents, everything there is perfect. This is what you want. All right, so yeah, just to let you know that's was a little thing we did extra. Then what I haven't got here is the full interior, which also gets printed, and I put everything in them. As you have seen on Facebook, you know, I've got even the glass on the gauges. Everything gets done on that interior. That gets done dead stone last. And that's basically it. Then you just pop this whole lot together. When it's done and it's on the chassis, you build this little box, which I won't build now because it won't, but it's a little smoker box which goes together square that attaches on top. This is the smoker. Oh yeah, this is what I also wanted to show you. This is a USA train smoker. They're brutal. I mean, for a diesel, they're lovely. It will run about 10 minutes on my smoke files with these, because I taper the smoke off, so they last quite a long time on a single charge. And that's it. And it's nice and small, fits in nicely, smokes exactly like you want it to. It's very responsive, lovely little smoker. Goes into the box because you need the smoke to come out in a width equal to the exhaust. We built a little box that it actually fits in there. And that is that. Oh yes, wait. We forgot the single most expensive part of this train. ESU lock sound XL5. Daddy's baby. Daddy's pretty little decoder. This is the heart of the train. Everything that this thing does comes out of here. It's smoke, it's everything gets done by this. So, yeah, there you have it. All right, so I've got the files for that. I write the file, put the thing in, boom, boom. 185 hours from now, that train will be running, because I can do it now in 185 hours. It will be running. Oh, another thing, why it takes so long? There's a lot of stuff on it, especially on the chassis. The chassis takes me about 3 days to do. It's little things like this. This is Green Stuff Worlds. You can see these are solids. These are ABS. They're not styrene. They're much stronger. They bend much better. This is lovely stuff. You know, for supports, thicker pipes, you use on this train 1.2 mil brass brazing rod, 1.6 mil. You use a hell of a lot of 1 mil copper wire, and then there's 4 mil, there's a couple of 6 mils, and then stuff like that. Alright, and then once you've got a running chassis, you've got everything on there, it is done. The last part that I actually forgot about and did not put there is the pilots. This is tomorrow's job. It is also the job from hell, because they look like this, but you see how rough they are. So this needs to be sanded in there. Dis mag, girls. To do these properly, it takes you the best part of a day. See, there's the plates on it. Yeah, so I tend to do those last. And the hardest part with these is the masking. She knows, that's why she's laughing. I hate masking. If I could get a decal to do the lines there, perfect, but you can't. You have to mask it and paint it. And I just suck at that. But anyway, oh yeah, while we're here, this is the interior. See, this also needs, all of it needs to be sanded. This is your interior, your back cupboards in a GM. And then somewhere here, it's not this one, because the GM one is bend. There must be one here somewhere. You have this as the middle control that gets all its handles in there. And then the handbrake sits this side. And, oh no, this side sits the handbrake. And then there's another little cupboard here. I'll show you when it's done. You will see on the video. Oh, yeah. That is a GM's console. Okay. And that's basically, okay, in that console, you also, these are all parts of that interior. Here's the other little corner cupboard. Gets a gauge there, and not a gauge, a little switch there, and it's lovely to build. And that's basically it. Now you can build a train. Boom. 34 GM sorted. We will run through that thing as we go along, and then you go build your own. I will supply you the kits, and you can build your own one. Goed. Bye-bye.